by a professor of philosophy like myself, indeed a professor in any of the humanities at an American university now, should feel pessimistic about the future. Simply put, liberal education in general, philosophy in particular, is at risk. We all know some of the reasons why. When it comes to their economic futures, people are afraid. The gap between the wealthy and the not wealthy, between the haves and the have-nots, is rapidly widening. There is a fear, a justifiable fear, that the middle is disappearing and that as a result, the economic world will become far more competitive and exclusive. There is a fear that people who are unprepared will be left behind. As a result, university students have been flocking to subjects like economics, management, business administration, hospitality administration, the medical fields, engineering, and computer science. They and their parents are afraid that those who do not receive a technical or pre-professional training will be left out. Again, this is not an entirely unreasonable fear. However, there are other and perhaps even deeper reasons for the decline of the humanities in general and of philosophy in particular. In our globalized, hyper-technical culture, the internet and the smartphone have made immediate gratification the norm. A few clicks on a keyboard and almost any question can be quickly answered. Information is transmitted at lightning speed. A few touches on the screen and we know exactly where we are. We are rarely, if ever, lost. Boredom has been all but eliminated. But the screen offers us what seems to be endless stimulation. Solitude and those sessions of sweet silent thought have become ever more rare. By contrast, studying philosophy is a slow business. It requires patience, lingering, unhurried conversation, struggle, and perhaps most of all, the willingness to be lost. Philosophy is not simply a matter of gaining information. It is a way of being thoughtful, a way of being alive, a way of participating in life through thought. These days, such slow philosophical virtues are not celebrated. Indeed, at times they seem not even to be recognized. One quick example. Like almost every university and college in America, Boston University is becoming increasingly preoccupied with what are called outcomes assessments. The idea behind this movement is a sensible one. What exactly does a student get from a very expensive university education? Do they get what they paid for? To find out, the administrators are developing ways of measuring what it is that students have learned during their 4 years at BU. What has been the outcome of their education? On the one hand, I'm sympathetic with the impulse behind outcomes assessment. I think it's absolutely reasonable for students and parents to ask whether a university is providing a valuable education. But there's a problem, at least when it comes to philosophy. Much of what we do is simply not measurable. We aspire to develop in our students and in ourselves the intellectual virtues of thoughtfulness, openness, self-criticism, discipline, fascination with human life, a delight in struggle, a love of intellectual opposition, a feeling of appreciation for the simple fact that we are able to ask questions. How do we measure these? We can't. What the philosophy department delivers cannot be quantified. And to many people, this now means, in the age of the internet and the worship of measurable skills, philosophy is so far on the margins of the university that it is almost invisible. To add just a little more fuel to the fire, let me read from a letter written by the president of Boston University, Robert Brown, who wrote this to the faculty, and I quote, "Since 2010, the number of applicants to the School of Management has increased by 87.7%, and for the College of Engineering by 94.6%. To accommodate these significant shifts in demand, we must necessarily reallocate resources in order to maintain quality. In other words, in the future, Boston University, like virtually every other university in this country, will invest more heavily in engineering and management. In our department, Berkeley, 2 senior professors retired this year, and 3 junior professors recently took positions elsewhere. Will they be replaced? I hope so, but I must confess, I am not entirely optimistic. As Dr. Brown stated, resources at Boston University are being reallocated. In short, and as all of us already know, American universities are moving away from liberal education and toward technical and pre-professional training. Well, I hold Boston University in high regard, and I feel deeply appreciative and proud of it. I think there are good reasons to be worried and perhaps even pessimistic about the future. But I am not pessimistic. And for one simple reason, you're here. Against heavy odds, we are here. We, the faculty who teach philosophy, you, the students who study it, and many people in this room are parents who have supported their children in this unlikely enterprise. For me, this is reason for optimism. Regardless of how large technology and the internet loom in our world, philosophy, good, slow, old-fashioned thinking, talking, reading, wondering, writing, is anything but dead. Indeed, it is and will continue to be a fundamental human, a living possibility. People of all ages, from all places and times, will still ask questions about the world they live in, the language they use, the people they know, the sciences they study, and the governments of which they are citizens. Both Plato and Aristotle, my 2 favorite philosophers, identified wonder as the origin of philosophy. Thinking people don't simply accept what is in front of their eyes. Instead, they experience all aspects of human life as interesting, strange, curious, amazing, and wonderful. As a result, they are provoked to ask questions. At bottom, philosophy is the pursuit of these questions, and these questions are asked by people from all walks of life. I've taught at a wide variety of institutions: a private high school, a city university in New York, a wealthy liberal arts college, a state university in the Midwest, and Boston University. I've taught rich kids and poor ones, boys and girls, women and men, citizens and international students, students whose great-grandparents were born in the United States, and students whose parents just arrived. I've given classes in retirement homes and at public museums. In each of these venues, I've had the same experience. There will always be someone out there whose interest is sparked, who comes alive at the prospect of questioning, who feels some identification with the writings of Plato or Aristotle, Descartes, Rousseau, Miller, Kant. To be truthful, the number of such people will never be very high, and has never been very high. Most people, however intelligent or well-educated they are not particularly philosophical. But, and this is the key point, at least for me, there will always be people who are interested in philosophy. And finally, I think this is what keeps me going year after year. I can never predict who they will be. Sometimes a student who has sat silently through months of classes, who has never said a word, is the one who has been most touched by the course. Sometimes it's the talkative student who trails me to my office to continue the discussion. Whoever they are, I can count on the fact that they will be there. Every September, I've been doing this for a long time, 30 plus years, every September and every January, I enter a classroom and I'm greeted by a group of new and unfamiliar faces. I know 3 things, even before the class begins. First, not everybody is going to be interested or pay much attention. Second, there will be people who are interested. who are animated by the spirit of philosophy and excited at the prospect of questioning. Third, I don't know who they are. They are there. You are here. And that's why I'm not, and frankly, I never have been pessimistic about the future. And I suspect I never will. Now my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Charles Griswold, who himself will have the pleasure of introducing this year's student speaker.